Hey humans! Welcome to Read to Me, Matt Dunn. I'm Matt Dunn, and I'm going to read to you. Today I'm going to continue reading Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. We are in chapter 43. We are on part 2. Let's begin. Elizabeth is getting some hints as to what she wants in a man. Get what I mean? She's thinking about Mr. Darcy. Excuse me. When all of the house that was open to general inspection had been seen, they returned downstairs, and taking leave of the housekeeper were consigned over to the gardener, who met them at the hall door. This is nice. I like this aspect. Like, people have elegant houses, elegant art, wonderful gardens, and they just have people come over willy-nilly and tour it. Be like, yes, lovely elegant table chairs you have there, and what a lovely flower. I don't need to pay to see it, although you'd like that, wouldn't you? As they walked across the lawn toward the river, Elizabeth turned back to look again. Her uncle and aunt stopped also, and while the former was conjecturing as to the date of the building, the owner of it himself suddenly came forward from the road, which led behind it to the stables. I think they're saying Mr. Darcy's there? They were within 20 yards of each other, and so abrupt was his appearance, it is Mr. Darcy, that it was impossible to avoid his sight. Their eyes instantly met, and the cheeks of each were overspread with the deepest blush. He absolutely started, and for a moment seemed immovable from surprise, but shortly recovering himself, advanced toward the party and spoke to Elizabeth, if not in terms of perfect composure, at least of perfect civility. This guy, just showing her up, being like, I may be embarrassed, but I'm going to prove you wrong. And then he walks up with a slight hip gesture, and he's like, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Hey, Elizabeth, the girl that shot me down. She had instinctively turned away, but stopping on his approach, received his compliments with an embarrassment impossible to be overcome. Had his first appearance or his resemblance to the picture they had just been examining been insufficient to assure the other two that they now saw Mr. Darcy, the gardener's expression of surprise on beholding his master must immediately have told it. They stood a little aloof while he was talking to their niece, who, astonished and confessed, scarcely dared lift her eyes to his face, and knew not what answer she returned to his civil inquiries after her family. Amazed at the alteration of his manner since they last parted, every sentence that he uttered was increasing her embarrassment, and every idea of the impropriety of her being found there reoccurring to her mind, the few minutes in which they continued together were some of the most uncomfortable of her life. Nor did he seem much more at ease when he spoke. His accent had none of its usual sedateness, and he repeated his inquiries as to the time of her having left Longbourn and of her stay in Derbyshire so often, and in so hurried a way as plainly spoke the distraction of his thoughts. These are things he said, apparently. At length every idea seemed to fail him, and after standing a few moments without saying a word, he suddenly recollected himself and took leave. The others then joined her and expressed their admiration of his figure, but Elizabeth heard not a word, and, wholly engrossed her own feelings, followed them in silence. She was overpowered by shame and vexation. Her coming there was the most unfortunate, the most ill-judged time in the world. How strange must it appear to him! In what a disgrace light might it not strike so vain a man! It might seem as if she had purposely thrown herself in his way again. Oh, why did she come? Or why did he thus come a day before he was expected? Had they been only 10 minutes sooner, they should have been beyond the reach of his discrimination, for it was plain that he was that moment arrived, that moment alighted from his horse or his carriage. She blushed again and again over the perverseness of the meeting. And his behavior so strikingly altered. What could it mean? That he should even speak to her was amazing. But to speak with such civility, to inquire after her family, never in her life had she seen his manners so little defined. Never had he spoken with such gentleness as on this unexpected meeting. How much more we got? Oh, we got a few more. Okay, let's do another page. What a contrast did it offer to his last address in Rosings Park, when he put his letter into her hand. She knew not what to think, or how to account for it. They had now entered a beautiful walk by the side of the water, and every step was bringing forward a nobler fall of ground, or a finer reach of the woods to which they were approaching. But it was some time before Elizabeth was sensible of any of it, and though she answered mechanically to the repeated appeals of her uncle and aunt, it seemed to direct her eyes to such objects as they pointed out. She distinguished no part of the scene. Her thoughts were all fixed on that one spot of Pemberley House, whichever it might be, where Mr. Darcy then was. She longed to know what at that moment was passing in his mind, in what manner he thought of her, and whether, in defiance of everything, she was still dear to him. Perhaps he had been civil only because he felt himself at ease, yet there had been that in his voice which was not like ease. Whether he had felt more of pain or of pleasure in seeing her, she could not tell, but he certainly had not seen her with composure. They composed on each other. Ooh. They entered the woods, and, bidding adieu to the river for a while, ascended some of the higher grounds, whence in spots where the opening of the trees gave the eye power to wander, were many charming views of the valley, the opposite hills, with the long range of woods overspreading many and occasionally part of the stream. So many things to look at. So many things to distract your mind from Mr. Darcy. Mr. Gardiner expressed a wish of going round the whole park, but feared it might be beyond a walk. With a triumphant smile, they were told that it was 10 miles round. It settled the matter, and they pursued the accustomed circuit, which brought them again, after some time, in a descent among hanging woods to the edge of the water, and one of its narrowest parts. What the fudge sickle? All right, let's do this last page, because this last page is a whole paragraph. They crossed it by a single bridge into Narnia. Oh, wait, what am I reading? Oh, Pride and Prejudice. They went to Mordor. Oh, wait, what is this? Pride and Prejudice? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Crossed it by a single bridge, in character with the general air of the scene. It was a spot less adorned than they had yet visited, and the valley, here contracted into a glen, allowed room only for the stream, and a narrow walk amidst the rough coppice wood which bordered it. Elizabeth longed to explore its windings. But when they had crossed the bridge and perceived their distance from the house, Mrs. Gardiner, who was not a great walker, could go no further, and thought only of returning to the carriage as quickly as possible. Her niece was therefore obliged to submit, and they took their way towards the house on the opposite side of the river, in the nearest direction. But their progress was slow, for Mrs. Gardiner, though seldom able to indulge the taste, was very fond of fishing, and was so much engaged in watching the occasional appearance of some trout in the water, and talking to the man about them, that he advanced but little. Whilst wandering on in the slow manner, they were again surprised, and Elizabeth's astonishment was quite equal to what it had been at first, by the sight of Mr. Darcy approaching them, and at no great distance. Whoa! The walk being here less sheltered than on the other side allowed them to see him before they met. Elizabeth, however astonished, was at least more prepared for an interview than before, and resolved to appear and to speak with calmness, if he really intended to meet them. For a few moments, indeed, she felt that he would probably strike into some other path. The idea lasted while a turning in the walk concealed him from their view. The turning past, he was immediately before them. With a glance she saw that he had lost none of his recent civility, and to intimate his politeness, she began as they met to admire the beauty of the place, but she had not got beyond the words delightful and charming, when some unlucky recollection obtruded, and she fancied that praise of Pemberley from her might be mischievously construed. Her color changed, and she said no more. Wow. She's like, hide me. I don't want to see you anymore. It's so hard. Mr. Darcy, I can't help but love you. She loves him. She hasn't said it yet, but she does. She's just embarrassed. Well, anyway, I guess, thank you for watching. And, hey, remember, be weird. Give it a try. Do what it do. Give it a whoo. Right? Thanks. Give me a like if you like this video. Subscribe if you want to check out some more videos. Give me a comment. Tell me what you think. Let me know down your mind. Right? All right. Well, I guess I'll see you later, and I'm going to push this